The rancher counted 83 animals. The camera counted 84. Caleb Mercer checked the number 3 times before breakfast. 83 cattle stood inside the pasture. 83 tags. 83 records. The software displayed 84. At first, he assumed the system was faulty. The camera had been installed only a few weeks earlier. It used motion tracking and object recognition to monitor the herd overnight. The company advertised it as nearly perfect. Caleb restarted it anyway. The next morning, the result was the same. Objects detected. 84. He counted the herd again. Still 83. A technician reviewed the system remotely. No software errors, no duplicate detections, no hardware failures. According to the logs, the camera had identified 84 separate objects moving within the pasture. The technician suggested a deer, a stray dog, maybe a large bird passing through the frame. The explanation sounded reasonable. Until the following month, one of the cattle was sold. The herd dropped to 82. The next morning, the camera reported 83. Still one extra. Another animal was transferred to a neighboring ranch. The herd dropped again. The camera count dropped too. But it always remained one higher than it should have been. Always +1. That was when Caleb began reviewing the footage. Night after night, the software highlighted every animal with a small tracking box. There should have been 83. Instead, there were 84. At first, he focused on the extra box. But something felt wrong. The software never highlighted the same animal twice. One night, the extra marker appeared over a black cow near the fence. The next night, it appeared over a calf beside the water trough. Another night, it highlighted a sleeping bull. The supposed extra object kept changing. Yet the total never changed. Always one more. Caleb spent hours comparing recordings. Eventually, he noticed something the software wasn't showing. The highlighted animal didn't matter. The extra count wasn't coming from it. It was coming from whatever stood behind it. The shape was never clear. Sometimes it appeared near the tree line, sometimes beside a fence post, sometimes behind the herd itself. The camera never tracked it directly. It simply counted something in the same area, something that shouldn't have been there. Caleb opened older recordings, then older ones, then recordings from years before the software upgrade. The shape was there too. Not clearly, not enough to identify, but enough to notice once he knew where to look. And every year it seemed closer. 5 years ago it stood near the distant woods. 4 years ago it appeared near the outer fence. 3 years ago, it was inside the grazing field. 2 years ago, it stood near the feeding stations. Last year, it appeared beside the herd, always watching, always counted, never explained. The realization bothered Caleb enough that he moved part of the herd to a completely different pasture on the opposite side of his property. New field, new fencing, new camera system, different manufacturer, different software, different everything. The next morning, the monitor displayed. Objects detected. 84. Caleb stared at the screen. The extra object had followed. Or maybe it had never been following the cattle at all. Maybe it had been following the cameras. That thought stayed with him. Weeks later, he reviewed the newest footage. The count still showed 84. But this time, something had changed. The shape was no longer appearing near the animals. It was appearing near the cameras themselves. Each recording placed it closer to the lens. Closer than before. Closer than should have been possible. One night it stood near the fence. The next week it appeared beside a utility pole. Days later, it stood directly beneath a floodlight. Then one night, the tracking marker disappeared entirely. For the first time in years, Caleb thought it was over, until he checked the next frame. The count still read 84. The marker had not vanished. It had moved somewhere the camera could no longer see. Caleb replayed the footage over and over. Then he noticed a detail he had missed. The software's detection box wasn't outside the frame. It wasn't hidden behind a structure. It was centered exactly where the camera itself was mounted, as if the extra object was standing directly beneath it, looking up. The following morning, Caleb installed additional cameras around the property. 6 of them. Every angle covered. Every blind spot removed. That night, all 7 cameras recorded normally. At 2:17 a.m., every outdoor system displayed the same result. Objects detected. 84. Then, 7 minutes later, every camera feed briefly went black. Not for long. Just long enough to trigger a warning in the system log. When the images returned, the count displayed. Exactly what it should have been. For the first time in years, the extra object was gone. Caleb almost felt relieved. Almost. Later that morning, while reviewing the recordings, he noticed a new notification. Not from the pasture cameras, not from the barn, not from the floodlights. It came from the security camera inside the monitoring room, the room where he reviewed footage every night. Caleb opened the recording. The room was empty. The chair was empty. The desk was empty. Yet the system log showed. Objects detected. 2. The count remained unchanged for 17 minutes. There was only one problem. According to the timestamp, Caleb had been sitting alone in that room the entire time.